So I'm here in Malden with Dave Selby, the author of The Impractical Boat Owner, a hilarious book of Dave's time sailing in local and other waters. And Dave's well known to readers of Practical Boat Owner, of course, for his regular column and for other adventures and misadventures. And Dave, you just were saying that you'd been down in the Isle of Wight for a 50th celebration of one of the Westerly classes.
Yeah, that's right, Dan. It was brilliant. It was the 50th anniversary of the Westerly Centaur, which came out in 1969. And it's a very, very important yacht because it got so many people on the water, because they made over 2,400 of them. And the vast majority still survive. So I went down to the Isle of Wight and they asked me to do a talk down there. And we had about 50 boats there. Never before has so much osmosis been in one place at one time. But it was spectacular. It was a beautiful celebration, and the efforts that people went to get there. There was a couple in their 80s from Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't bring their boat, but I just thought it wonderful that they had a Westerly Centaur in Tennessee. How did it get there? And I met the most amazing people. Many of them were sort of mature sailors, but the really, really invigorating thing was that there were young people are coming to it. There were 3 or 4 boats that were bought in the last year by people in their 20s and 30s, just in the last year. And I found that so energizing, because I was beginning to think that young people don't get it. They don't get what opportunities there are out there. And if you look at how affordable sailing is, it's amazing, because people think it's elitist, exclusive, and you can't get on the water. But it's not that case at all. You know, because the fact is that for the price of a single family holiday or even a night out, you can buy a little boat that will give you holidays of a lifetime for a lifetime. Obviously you won't enjoy them, but they will be cheap. But the Centaur is the perfect example of that, because we drilled down into their values, and you know, they're tough boats. They're really tough, thick fiberglass. The vast majority survive.
How long are they? Can we just talk about?
Yeah, 26 foot, 26 foot, and they have up to 6 berths. So you know, it will get a family afloat.
It is a family holiday boat.
And when they came out in 1969, they were twice the price of an E-Type, brand new E-Type Jaguar. So they were an expensive bit of kit.
Then?
Yeah. And
what are they now?
Well, I was at the last London boat show, and the latest Jaguar is the F-Type, and there are 1 or 2 26-footers there that are still twice the price of the latest F-Type, over 100 grand. But what if you can't afford that? What we did was we looked at the prices of Centaurs over the last 20 years, and average prices have fallen by 40%, from 11,500 to 7,000. Now, it's not a reflection on the boats by any means, because if they've lasted this long, they're going to last as long again. It's a reflection of the market. And what I want people to realise is that there are a huge number of great old boats there that can get them on the water and give them adventures of a lifetime. And that's kind of my campaign. I've been styled myself as a boating guru.
Yeah, man after my own heart.
Simply because I can't afford a proper boat. Which is simply because I work for PBO.
Yes, I sympathise. I deeply sympathise. I'm in the same situation. What sort of condition are these boats in after all this time? In 50 years, has seen a lot of wear and tear on a boat, hasn't it?
Some of them are lovely, you know, and they will have been really refurbished. I mean, there's one I saw that was beautifully updated inside, and it looked all modern, you know. But the fact is, they're old-fashioned boats, but that gives them, you know, they have virtues because of that. I went out sailing on one. They're sea kindly. They're not fast or pacey, but you know, they just can open up the world to you in all sorts of magical ways. And Westerly Centaurs are bilge keelers, so they have a draft, I think, of less than 3 foot. And you can get into creeks and small places.
And they take the ground.
Yeah, you don't have to pay for marinas, you know. So the amazing thing is that sailing can be as cheap or as expensive as you want it to be. But what a lot of people don't realise is that it is accessible and it is attainable.
So a way to carry that theme on, cheap sailing would be, I suppose, to try and find a swinging mooring somewhere. Don't keep them in a marina.
Yeah.
Keep them on a swinging mooring. What would that cost? About $1,000 a year?
Less than that.
Less than that.
And a few years ago, I sold my small fiberglass boat, an 18-footer. I sold it from here to Southampton, 340 miles.
I was with you for a leg.
You were. And I had the adventure of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I stayed in the heart of London in Limehouse, and that cost me £21 a night. A hotel there would have cost 150 quid, and I stayed in Limehouse Marina in the heart of trendy East London.
And the showers are quite good in Limehouse.
Yeah, but even down on the south coast, the Hamble is notoriously expensive, and there's a club up on the left-hand side of the Hamble, further upriver, where you can get a half-tide mooring and membership of the club, I think, for about 350 quid a year. I mean, obviously there are limitations. You can only get to your boat twice a year, once to put it in and once to take it out, but that saves wear and tear on sails.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got this bilge keeler, so you can go in to places where you get in at the high point of tide.
Yeah.
And you take the ground. You're as solid as a rock until the tide comes back in, and you float away again.
Yeah.
So, as you say, it's a great way to explore and to see different parts of the coast, see it from a different perspective completely.
It makes your world bigger. You know, a small boat makes your world bigger, and in a bilge keeler you can explore places that you couldn't in a fin keeler and stuff like that. And also it has the practicality that you don't need a trolley to lift it out. It can be craned out for the winter and just put on the hard. So, you know, so there are savings there as well.
That's clever.
They make a lot of sense.
What about restoring one of these things? Is it easy to restore a fiberglass boat? I mean, you mentioned osmosis earlier on.
Yeah.
Is that important or not?
Not so much with Centaurs, because they were built, you know, they were among the first or the early generation of fiberglass production boats where people didn't know the tolerances of material, and they were massively over-engineered. And I've been on modern fiberglass boats. You could read a newspaper through the hull because the sun shines through. You know, and they're really, really tough old boats. And some Centaurs have got osmosis, but not many. And you know what? A boat never sank of osmosis.
It doesn't sink.
No,
It's not really that much of a problem if you can put up with the unsightly blisters.
Yeah.
And what about sort of doing things like replacing an engine or electrics? Is that expensive, or can you do it yourself?
It's something. If you program it in, you can do it over years, 1 year or something. I mean, a lot of the Centaurs I've seen have had recent engines, and that's something that you have. But you'll factor that into the price you pay. Friends of mine had just bought one for $6.5 grand, and has had an engine in it that's only 3 or 4 years old.
And that will last another 10 years happily.
They bought the boat for slightly more than the cost of the installation of the engine. And it's got all the modern navigation equipment. It's got lovely cushions, which seems to be something that people are obsessed by, you know, the quality of the cushions. It's even got a TV on it. It's had its standing rigging done. The sails are a little bit tired, but they can sail with that for a year or two and then upgrade if they want to. And you know, the other thing is that with Centaurs, they built so many of them, they've got a very good chance of getting a very good pair of second-hand sails.
Sure. So is there a club that you can join, an owners association?
Yeah, my advice for anyone buying a small boat or their first boat, their first sailing cruiser, is more important than the boat is the association or the club behind them. Because my boat's Sailfish 18, they built 900 of them, which is a fair old number, but we've got the Sailfish Association, which has this amazing online forum that gives you advice about payment protection insurance, mortgages, loft extensions, unusual rashes, and even boat. But if you've got a query about the boat, or you know, you don't understand something, you put something up there and you get the knowledge and feedback straight away. And the Westerly Owners Association is the biggest owners association in the world because they built lots of them.
It's
and
thousands of members, isn't it? It's many thousands.
I don't know how many thousand, but because of that, you've got the incredible support and knowledge.
Yeah.
And also in our Sailfish Association, there are 1 or 2 spares that can't be got anymore, so we remake them. And so, you know, the boat is just as viable now as it was then. And one thing that makes my boat and Centaurs more viable is that all the foibles that they've had in production have been worked out. They've all been solved. There can be problems with the keels, with the bilge keels on the Centaurs, but they know about it and they know what the fix is. And if you bought a sort of unicorn boat that they didn't make many of, you'd be learning all yourself instead of being able to tap into that wonderful fund of knowledge and the community
Yeah.
of people.
So it really makes sense to go for a boat that's a mass production
Go
boat.
for a boat they made loads of.
Yeah.
If it's your first boat, because you need that support. If I hadn't bought my Sailfish 18 as my first boat, I'd probably be pretty good at golf by now. You know, because I wouldn't have sustained it. I wouldn't have known how to put the boat together. You know.
So you're really saying, you know, maybe 2 or 3 people could get together and buy one of these boats for cash.
Yeah.
Don't need to take an expensive loan. You can just start and get afloat straight away. It's brilliant.
And that's happening more and more. Of the young people that I saw at the Centaur rally, there was one guy who bought into a half share of a boat, and there were three young people who bought a boat together.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Spread the load. Yeah.
And the reality is that if you use your boat a lot, the more you use it, the cheaper the ownership is.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so
And
true.
so,
And can you live aboard?
yeah, certainly. I mean,
You got a little galley for.
You got a galley, you know, you got galley. I mean, the one that I sail on with my mates, they've got a TV, they've got everything you need, you know. There's a proper toilet, there's a sink and stuff like that. So, really, it's a, you know,
Nice
it's a
comfy boat to be aboard.
safe, tough, sea kindly, not the fastest, but you know, I go sailing to slow down. If I was in a hurry, I'd walk.
Quite right, Dave. Brilliant. Well, thank you, Dave.
And thank you, Dan, for letting me get a word in. I appreciate it.
Well, I'll shut up now. Cheers.